Marketing Edge ONTV is Nigeria's leading initiative in the business of brand management and in the management of brand business. It is a 30-minute awesome package that comprises brand news, branding focus, and industry conversation all in a mix, encompassing thorough and in-depth analysis aimed at promoting the brand idea. I am Bababumi Agbibi. Welcome to the program.
Marketing Edge ONTV, promoting the brand idea.
We begin with brand news, where we bring you the latest developments around brands and in the field of marketing and advertising in Nigeria and around the world. The Advertisers Association of Nigeria has dismissed reports linking its ongoing legal battle with Akon to a recent court ruling involving Betway Nigeria. In a notice to members, Advan said it is not a party to the Betway case and emphasized that both matters are legally and constitutionally distinct. The association confirmed its suit against Akon remains active and adjourned for hearing at the Federal High Court in Lagos. TVC Communications has launched Nigeria's first AI news anchors, becoming the first network to deploy artificial intelligence for news delivery in English, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and Pidgin. The station says the move is aimed at reaching more Nigerians with real-time news and enhancing viewer experience by combining technology with human presenters. A new report by Mustard Insights and LinkedIn projects Nigeria's creative industry will generate $14.8 billion in revenue and create 2.7 million new jobs by the end of 2025. The sector, already contributing 2.3% to GDP, continues to grow steadily, driven by digital innovation, youth talent, and rising global demand for Nigerian content. Next is Branding Focus after this break.
Every Nigerian mum knows everything is so expensive. Every naira needs to work harder. That's why I always go back to So Clean.
New So Clean with Snow Powder Tech. The powder is finer,
So it dissolves easier, foams faster, and cleans better.
every grain works for you. Nothing's wasted.
New So Clean detergent with Snow Powder Tech. Every grain works for you.
Marketing Edge ONTV, promoting the brand idea.
Now, brand in focus.
Wema Bank is seasoned for every season.
Wema Bank is marking 80 years of resilience and innovation in Nigeria's financial sector. From its beginnings in 1945 as Agbomagbe Bank, it has evolved into a digital leader, becoming the first African bank to launch a fully digital platform, Alert, in 2017. Alert redefined banking for millions of Nigerians, offering a seamless, paperless experience that made financial services more accessible across the country. Now celebrating 6 years, Alert remains a symbol of Wema Bank's commitment to forward-thinking solutions. Beyond tech, the legacy bank has continued to empower the next generation through partnerships with the federal government with its FGN Alert digital and skill innovation hubs, which are training thousands of youths in business and digital skills across Nigeria. The bank also supports creativity with initiatives like the Sounds of Alert competition and its Alert 545 promo, which has rewarded customers with over 90 million naira. These efforts target students, traders, and artisans, offering them financial boost and exposure. Its Alcoholics programs has become a national platform for innovation, impacting nearly 300,000 people and awarding $200,000 in grants to young tech talent and startups across Africa. The current edition has drawn support from major global brands. After 8 decades, Wema Bank remains a trusted partner to individuals and businesses alike. Its iconic purple continues to inspire pride as the bank looks ahead with renewed energy, embracing technology, inclusion, and a deeper connection to the people it serves. That was Branding Focus. Next is Industry Conversation, where we discuss with industry thought leaders who have distinguished themselves and have made tremendous impact in their chosen field. My guest today is Patrick Gomez, the Chief Executive Officer, DigitXPLUS. Join us after this break.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
On Industry Conversation today, I'll be speaking with the Chief Executive Officer, DigitXPLUS, Patrick Gomez. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Oh, glad to have you. What's your assessment on the current state of the digital market in Nigeria?
For us, and I think for the entire industry, if I was to speak, and fortunately, maybe in this part of the world, because if you look at options of other media when it comes to television and maybe various other opportunities like radio, including cable and so on and so forth. I think digital as a medium allows an opportunity for clients to possibly invest with needed confidence. What has happened is over a period of time, because of no audience measurement data currently in Nigeria, digital as a medium has been a medium which can be trusted by any advertiser. Certainly, there are many things that have happened over a period of time, not just locally in Nigeria, but also worldwide, to ensure that the faith in digital as a medium continues. So, from we being the mobile first market versus maybe other developing or developed markets, it has given the opportunity to advertisers to reach the end consumer, because you're not just dependent on them being reached through desktop or laptops. You've been able to reach them through mobile, and that's a personal device. There's a lot of personalization which has happened over a period of time to ensure that you're able to reach the end consumer, and at the same time you are able to ensure that it results into what we typically call as ROAS, which is return on ad spend, and in the larger term ROI, which is return on investment. So over a period of time, we've been able to prove to our clients and even our prospect that this as a medium can definitely be a go-to medium for them to trust and ensure that they put their marketing investment for them to be confident that it will definitely deliver value to them.
What are the current trends shaping the digital market space in Nigeria?
So a lot is happening. If you take definitely creativity itself, for us, when we look at creativity plays an incremental role in delivering performances, and there's no end to it. So a lot is going on to ensure that creativity is not ignored but actually looked at it from the art and science perspective, right? So the same level of exposures are now delivering better performances, which means there's a lens of creativity which is being looked at to ensure that same exposure maybe a couple of years back and same exposure now, how do you ensure that that exposure results into value? So we believe that creativity plays an incremental role, and that is something which we are constantly evolving with and ensuring that it delivers. The second, of course, it's spoken a lot, is about AI, to ensure that that as a technology availability or the advances we have currently, we're able to use AI in a meaningful manner. And AI is not just a theoretical subject or a topic we're talking right now. It's about how do you ensure that AI brings in performance and ensures it delivers you effectiveness and efficiency. So how do you ensure that from an end-to-end perspective, you have deployed AI which actually takes care of your end-to-end goal? For example, when it comes to paid media management, how do you ensure that the handmade or man-made things are basically now getting done machine-made? Okay, to ensure there is efficiency and there is the so-called effectiveness in what we do, including deploying campaign and so on and so forth. AI not just from a paid media perspective, but also from a creativity perspective, not just from a creativity perspective, but also from a content perspective. So there's a lot of efficiency which is kind of being looked at from an AI perspective, and that's what we are ensuring that we constantly deliver that. Not only that, but also in terms of research, right? So there's a lot of data which is available in our own proprietary tools, But there's so much of information sitting over there. It's really impossible for a human mind or a human hand or human time to actually evaluate that. So your prompts are very important. So how do you ensure that your AI prompts or your prompts which basically ensure that a lot of LLM is coming into play, where your prompts are actually delivering efficiency, where a single prompt, like for example, I need to know how much time has been spent on social, what are the social media platforms. I don't need to analyze the data. A simple script or maybe a simple word or maybe paragraph can actually give me the result. So there's a lot of efficiency which is being looked at. Again, many things, but I would say maybe a lot of the influx we will see is more to do with new platforms coming in. So for example, TikTok has been available in this market for a while, but yes, I mean, TikTok has now been open for advertising. So before now, it used to be the content creators who were actually leveraging TikTok. So yes, there was supply, but now there's demand which is going to be from the advertisers side. And the agencies who are actually going to be leveraging. So when there's a supply and there's a demand, that definitely helps the ecosystem, which is what I would see maybe new platforms like TikTok, coming into this market and ensuring it creates avenues for many advertisers. So it's not about maybe taking away from the same pie. It's actually going to be working both ways. It's also going to be increasing the size of the pie. So it's not about TikTok coming in, therefore let's reduce spends on Meta or maybe X or elsewhere. It's basically going to be creating more opportunities. So yes, you have many options to ensure that you are able to reach your audiences, and that's really how we looked at from the new things that we're looking at.
Talking about expanding the pie. Now, will you agree that the digital space is overtaking other marketing channels, or they're working on the same level?
Correct. See, today, unfortunately, we do not have, spends which are basically monitored, like you have television, radio, outdoor, and print being monitored by monitoring agencies. But yes, you have sources from which you have information available. So if you look at traditional media spends today are in the range of, I would say, 450 to 500 billion naira. So if you look at digital as a medium, is kind of coming neck to neck. So if digital as a medium is today in the range of 400 to 450 billion naira. So yes, maybe in the next 1 or 2 years, you'll definitely see digital as a medium overtaking the traditional media spend, so to say. So that's something which is going to happen, and there are reasons for that. Reasons being, unfortunately, this market has not lived up to the maybe the needs and expectations of maybe an audience. So today, if you see from a content perspective, there's not enough which will ensure that people have enough to watch on television and so on and so forth. So that is rather creating maybe some sort of shifts, and there's enough content available on digital, not just digital but also from a connected TV point of view also. So a lot are basically moving away from the linear way of probably watching the traditional TV, not just terrestrial and cable, but also maybe going to a connected TV approach where, the world is available to them and they basically can spend more time there. So that's really how we see spends, shifting and ensuring that, digital is almost coming neck to neck when it comes to traditional media spends.
Aside overtaking traditional media in the next 1-2 years, like you said, what other projections do you see for the digital market space? And do you see challenges too for the space?
So I would say let's go step back and see maybe last 5 years. Maybe actually COVID accelerated spends on digital, right? Other mediums were suffering, and that's how. So if you look at the last 5 years, what we call as compounded annual growth rate, CAGR, the compounded annual growth rate for digital has been in the range of 25 to 27% in the last 5 years. But to a certain extent, I think the trajectory has kind of now come to stabilized rather. So we see maybe the compounded annual growth rate to be in the range of 15 to 16% for the next 5 years. So yes, it's got control. Clients are definitely spending a lot on digital. But the influx of maybe technologies like AI, which will make things much more beneficial and much more efficient, the influx of maybe newer platforms like TikTok, etc., which will ensure that spends come in. Maybe opportunities like, for example, FIFA 2026 and many other, which will keep coming as we progress, we'll definitely see a lot of spends happening on these opportunities that come our way. But it will average to about 15 to 16% for the next 5 years.
How can Nigerian businesses balance data-driven decision making and the need for creativity? How can they balance it?
So good. Both are equally important, and both are the needs of our clients, and both are something which cannot be denied. So from a data-driven perspective, there's a lot of understanding that needs to be there. So for example, if I need, so typically we divide, information in three parts, right? So first part is, what you think you know, okay, which is gathered or rather basically being developed from information that is available in the system, whether it's syndicated or it's published or it is basically have been coming from any dashboard. So things I know, right? So that's good. But there's a second bucket, which is things I think I know, okay, which is again an area of information which is some sort of maybe presumptions, and I need to validate that. For example, I know if I go back to the first bucket is there are 50% women and 50% men, right? We all know, and the same is going to be applicable in Lagos as it's going to be applicable in Kano. But then I look at maybe working women, okay. So I think I know, but I don't know. That is the part which is the second bucket. So I think I know, but I definitely need to know. It's basically the second bucket where how many of the women who are working and how many of the women are housewife, right? And that ratio may change, for example, if I go to Kano, right? So that's the information. And the third bucket is definitely I don't know. For example, I don't know their lifestyle. I need to understand their lifestyle. So when you look at these three buckets of information, that's how a balanced mind, or that's how a balanced research mind, or that's how a balanced digital or any media strategist should ideally have. You cannot be lopsided. You cannot say that the first bucket is 0% and the rest is 90% or 100%, right? Or first is maybe 10% and the other are maybe 45%. Typically, the information should be in such a manner that it's 33% is what you know, which means you are sound. 33% is basically what you think you know, but you need to know, and 33% is what you definitely don't know and you need to know, right? So that's how we say. Now, what will come to play is when you have this facts, okay, and these are really the watts of information, right? So facts will come from all these three buckets. And then you basically go to mine the why, which is what the insight comes from, right? So a lot of insight will come from all this information or all these facts, and that basically aids the creative purpose or the creative thinking. Or maybe we go from a quantitative to qualitative understanding. How do you apply those, right? So simple thing like maybe in the northern market, maybe housewives prefer drinking maybe colored tea for some reasons, right? If that's come out from the research, that's how we ensure that creativity or creative speaks to that. Because if you do not reveal that, chances are nobody will pay attention to it. And that's really the key, right? So when you talk about, let's say, women, okay, maybe let's look at an example like everybody, maybe not everybody, but not to generalize, but some women like to wear lipstick. Now, let's say a portion of women like to wear lipstick. And depending on how I would want to take it forward, so maybe I would say maybe some women like to wear lipstick because they would want to stand out in the crowd. Now that basically bold and maybe outer beauty. But there's another part to it. Maybe some women like to wear lipstick because they would want to be part of the crowd. Now that's focusing more on the inner beauty and so on and so forth. I don't care. I just want to live my normal life. So now when you look at these are elements which get picked up, and that's how you ensure that a creative is developed, right? There's a lot of art and science which goes into creativity, and that art and science can come from data and facts that you gather, and then you're probing those facts with a why to mine the insight and ensure that creativity. So for us, creativity plays an incremental role. So like I mentioned, if you have a creative or a piece of creative, it's just not a piece of creative. It's basically, an engagement opportunity with the person who's going to be seeing it. So if your end consumer, whether it's a shopper or a customer, ends up seeing it, there needs to be some moment of engagement, maybe to kind of spend some time, possibly glancing at it, and possibly engaging with it, or some sort of interaction. Even for example, a simple thing like time spent it's good enough for me to ensure that it's got enough attention, and so on and so forth.
There's a growing concern about ad fraud. How can this be mitigated?
Good question. I mean, definitely needed in this part of the world and elsewhere also. You have the so-called maybe the double verify and the likes of IAS, which is integral ad science. What they do is basically ensure that you are able to maybe iron out the ad fraud and iron out maybe the so-called the integrity part of whatever we want to look at. Now these tools definitely come in play, or these platforms definitely help us to ensure that we are able to maybe look at the available inventory in a manner that the ad fraud is kind of removed. And it's very important because when you traditionally buy, right, let's for example, you're buying maybe 100,000 impressions, but actually in that 100,000 impression, if 50% is fraud, or let's say 40% is fraud, or it's not going to be not verified, then chances are you're wasting your money. So it brings in a lot of efficiency, it brings in a lot of integrity, it brings in a lot of optimization, and it brings in a lot of value for the client. So it's important, and it's not just maybe attributed or can be attributed to any part of the world, but clients are basically demanding that and ensuring that you are able to deploy those to ensure that we don't waste our money. At the same time, we bring in efficiency, because ultimately, if you're responsible for return on ad spends, you need to be sure that you're buying quality inventory, and that quality inventory will be filtered through all these tools, which is double verify and IAS.
What are your thoughts about influencer marketing? Do you see it evolving in Nigeria?
I would say yes, definitely in like in any part of the world. The beauty about influencers, and if I was to draw a parallel, are the on-air personalities on radio. Typically when you look at them, they are very much grounded. They do know what's really happening. So if you were to kind of look at them, they understand the pulse, right? So if I was given an opportunity to ensure that you get the pulse of maybe a market, I would probably form a network of maybe influencers, because the way I can understand them doing content, or the way I can understand maybe OAPs managing their slots on radio is definitely an engaging one. And that because they've been able to invest a lot of time in understanding what the market needs are. So the influencer marketing is a good opportunity, another a good way to kind of also create content. So they're basically on an acceleration mode when it comes to creating content, right? And that is giving opportunity for many brands. So yes, I'm looking at maybe engagement opportunity. I want to ensure that my brand gets an attention. I want to ensure that it delivers to me a return on investment. And if I find something which is of quality and that's coming from the influencers, I would definitely want to use them. So there are range of influencers from different category of influencers, from nano, micro, macro, and so on and so forth. I mean, for us it's important to evaluate them based on needs. For example, if I'm looking at awareness, I would definitely look at maybe the macro influencer. If I'm looking at engagement and interaction, I would then look at maybe the micro and the nano influencers. So there is a range of available options. Within them also, there are a range of options which I can choose from, maybe for the categories where there's relevance. And that is also equally important, because if I do not look at influencers that are relevant to me as the category is, then chances I'm investing on the wrong influencers. Yes, I mean, there can be definitely a showstopper moment, or there can be an opportunity to work with an influencer who possibly is not related but has a huge relevance for the category, and then definitely I would want to use them. So it's a big opportunity. I would say advertisers are using it, but not to the fullest extent. And I think it is also the problem with the influencers, right? If that market is able to come to terms and create maybe a win-win situation for advertisers and agencies, I'm sure they will find better ways of maybe driving the ecosystem. simple things like, the contracts. Okay, not many influencers are open to signing any contracts or MOU, right? Which means that binds them to ensure they deliver on the expectations of the client, right? And also ensuring, they have favorable payment terms. Most would prefer upfront payment and so on and so forth. It's not possible, right? But there has to be maybe ways of working. Then you have the regulatory, they also need to understand that, I am not the one who's demanding. There is regulatory body which is actually also going to be approving thing. So if whatever you create is not going to be approved by the regulatory body, or it's going to be questioned, and digital is coming under a lot of scanner to ensure that all that gets posted, all get done, is approved by the regulatory body, which is ARCON in this case. So it's important that they understand. I think when the whole ecosystem understands this, particularly more from the influencers side, I think they would have achieved what we see them achieving, right? So maybe currently they're not actually fully taking the advantage, but yes, they will be able to take the advantage provided they work hand in hand and also ensure that is a common objective.
Marketing Edge on TV, promoting the bright idea.
That's the much we can take on today's episode. Join us again for the concluding part of the conversation next week. I am Bababumi Agbibi.